Do you use egrep or fgrep? Well, they're soon to be deprecated, so let's talk about the differences between grep, egrep, and fgrep, and how to keep egrep and fgrep even after they become deprecated. First, we're going to talk about the differences and how to use each of them. Grep is a pattern match tool, so if I search for something, let's say in this current directory, I'll need the -r to recursively search, and if I search for something in a file that I create, I'm just going to call it file and see if it gets recognized in this folder. And sure enough, in file1.savvy, we have SavvyNik's file written out and it recognized the file. So to break this down even further, basically we searched for a pattern, a string pattern between these single quotes called all capital file. We recursively did it, which just means through directories. And then finally, we used the tool called grep to do this. So that's grep. A very wonderful tool, especially when you're looking through your system trying to find strings. Well, one other thing that's great about grep is that it can actually search for strings using regular expressions, but this can be a pain. So I have 3 files right here, and basically they contain file, the same stuff except one's file, one's pile, and one's just a mix of expression. So if I use grep and I search for file and pile, I can do that with a regular expression. If I do it this way, you would think this would return something. Well, it doesn't. And that's because this is a special case. So by default here, grep is only treating everything in here as a string. But these are technically special characters that I have in here, which allow me to search between F and or P with whatever is after. So it should have searched for file and pile, but it didn't. Why? Well, that's because it doesn't recognize these special characters as special characters. They have to be escaped. So I'm just going to put these backslashes in and search again, and look at that, you have pile and file. And you might be asking yourself, well, why in the world would I have to escape these characters by myself? Well, that's where egrep comes in. If you use egrep, it does exactly that. So if I just copy this and I paste this back in here, we should get a result, and we don't because I have escape characters in here. So I'm gonna delete those. Now, what I was originally trying to do with grep and gotten a result, I should get a result here with egrep because it's going to escape special characters for me already, and it sure does. Look at that, SavvyNik's pile and SavvyNik's file. Very good. So now you might be asking the opposite, okay? If I were to search for this exact line and I wanted that to pop up, well, I have that in my 3rd file. Both grep and egrep never seem to recognize this. Standard grep's going to take these and treat them as escape characters, whereas egrep's going to automatically escape those characters for you. Well, there's a 3rd version, and it's called fgrep. I believe this means fixed grep, not 100% sure, correct me if I'm wrong. Anyways, if I search for this now using fgrep, I should get a result. And I sure do in my file 3 that I created. SavvyNik's F and file and pile with escape characters around the special characters. Well, now you're understanding the differences between egrep, fgrep, and regular old grep. And something important to know is basically egrep and fgrep have pretty much been on their way out for around 10 years now, or a decade. And steps are now being taken to completely deprecate these 2 commands. So for those of you who have been using egrep and fgrep, you're going to have to make a migration and choice soon to use something else. And what better way to do it than just use regular old grep? I'll show you how to do this. But before I do, smash that like button for me for getting in depth with the different forms of grep here. Let's talk about what we can do here. So here's egrep again. How do I find an equivalent in just regular grep? Well, I can do this fairly easily. You remove the E. I'm going to keep the -r in and just put a -E as a switch, and that acts the same. Notice it returned pile and file, and I did not have to escape any characters in my string this time, giving you the ability to use those regular expressions without having to escape things, making it much easier to do. Most people would argue egrep might be a little faster to type in, and instead of having to type this special -E switch in, but that's where good old aliasing comes into play. I'll show you in a moment what I mean, but for now, let's actually talk about the solution for fgrep as well. So let me go back through and find fgrep. With fgrep, I return file 3 and this wonderful string here. So with regular grep, let's do this as well. Well, I'm going to reuse this, and I'm just going to remove the F, and you guessed it, I'm going to put dash capital F, and that's a substitute in regular grep to use the fixed version. And there you go, returns the exact same thing. So now you know what to use in grep whenever it becomes deprecated for both the extended and fixed greps. Very good. So now for those of you who do not like the fact that these are becoming deprecated, you're used to using them, you want to keep them, well, there's a way, and it's called aliasing. I'm going to type alias into bash here, and you'll notice that there's already aliases for egrep, fgrep, and grep. And basically it's using a switch for the color auto. Ubuntu wants you to use the automatic coloring scheme here for grep. It basically feeds that switch in anytime you use grep, fgrep, or egrep. Do notice that they use fgrep and egrep. So in order to correct these, you can actually change these aliases around and just put in grep and then space -e and make the alias egrep. That way, anytime you would run egrep, you would actually be running grep-e, and you can throw in that -- color equal auto as well. Now, if you don't know how to change your aliases around and put new ones in, I do have a video on that. I'll post it in the description below. Check it out so you can start on this right now before it becomes deprecated. And for example, you can use -f color auto to emulate fgrep using grep directly, because grep itself is not becoming deprecated, just these offshoots of the tool itself are becoming deprecated. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did,